good afternoon. I'm noticing more and more chairs are getting empty. I deal with that.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of a message for people who are staying back. If you're staying back in the hope that I'm going to have a lucky draw and you're going to win a Rolls Royce car, we do not do cars. Rolls Royce does not make cars anymore. So just want to make that clear. As Christina said, my name is Sanjeev Verma. I'm Director of Offices. I'm also known as the guy who's getting the CEO out of his office. So next year, if you are visiting London, do go and visit a war memorial. You probably will see my name written somewhere over there. If you can't find it, look into the section of a fool who thought who could eliminate hierarchy. But that's what we're trying to learn. And I always blame people like Philip Ross. They've spoiled my mind quite a bit. Basically, we do have general discussion with a lot of consultants and keeping up with the newer stuff in the market in the sense. And we always talk about the workplace or the offices are a combination of 3 W's: the work, the worker, and the workplace. And I mean, having a discussion with a lot of good people and collecting wisdom from them, you tend to understand that most of the property teams or the offices team or the solution providers team, they tend to live in the W called workplace. We are always looking to do a conducive and inspiring workplace, but what the business is interested in is results. And that does not happen from any of the W. It happens from the intersections of the 3 Ws. So this is about our journey from the center of workplace W into the center of the universe, which is the 3 Ws in over there. What am I talking about right now? I'm talking about our move to a new headquarter location. We have a headquarter for about 120 people in the center of London, right next to the palace, Buckingham Gate. Yep. And we are moving to another location 150 yards away, next to the Buckingham Palace, and it's going to be the transformational product. And I had this thing, we need to make that journey. Let's go to the center of the universe of the 3 Ws and ask what the business is looking for. And what the business is looking for, they obviously gave us a set of whole things. Yes, the office has to be functional, and the office has to reflect a culture, and it has to be brand aligned to the Rolls Royce, the brand that we live in. And one of the top things which they were talking about was creating a symbol of culture change. What is the culture change that we are talking about? And obviously I started talking to some of the people, and I haven't spoken to Andreas yet, but I definitely would have spoken to some of his colleagues somewhere around. And as we heard earlier in the day today, it's all about open collaboration. Let's, make the social networks flow. And I'm getting all excited about it. Okay, let me get my CWO. What is CWO? Chief whatever officer. Let me talk to that particular person now. So what I do is I walk into this existing office, which is our traditional center, go up to the reception and say, I want to meet the CWO. And say, yeah, why don't you take the lift? CWO, he must be on the top floor. Go up to the top floor, because that's where he sits. Come out of the lift, take left, walk through a big corridor, then you go to the small corridor, then there are about 6 or 7 desks. After that you reach an office. I'm like, is that the CWO's office? No, that's his secretary's office. So when she receives you over there, she will guide you through the next steps. And I go in over there, and obviously it's got to be the corner office. And once you step into his office, you almost fall because the carpet is so plush. It looks like it's more like you walk into the mud kind of a thing. And you need a cup of coffee? Yes, here's a butler for you. I'm not talking about butter. Butler. Here's a butler for you who will serve tea, coffee, hot chocolate, whatever you want. I may excuse myself to the retiring room a little bit. Yes, I go in there and find linen towels inside. And if somebody is thinking that I'm time traveling from 1960s into this, no, I'm talking about the office that exists in today, 27th of March 2014. That's in operation, and all I'm talking about is no exaggeration. You want confirmation? My boss is sitting over there. He can probably vindicate the stuff which I'm talking about. And typically, when the CWO walks in, he doesn't just talk to you, he makes you sit on the sofa, and you notice, I mean, when you're sitting on the sofa, it's always plumpy. I mean, you sit and sink down, and you're like, and they come in and pull their own chair, and they sit with the legs crossed, and like, so what were you talking about? What are you going to remove right now? Nothing. So we knew the task in our hand, and we now knew what the culture change people were talking about, and I'll come to that as to why we were doing this, but we understood the challenge. Now, how do you tell that particular person, I'm going to take your office away? I'm not only going to take your office away, I'm going to make you more agile. You're not even going to have a desk to sit on. And by the way, what you're going to be working on is going to be seen by the minion whom you don't even know existed in this particular company before. So we said, okay, without making much of a philosophy about it, let's start getting on with the job. What did we start with first? Removing space entitlements. Taking the walls down, one of the very obvious answers. I mean, if you're removing hierarchy, come on, you've got to remove the walls. And one of the most obvious answers, and one of the leaders when we were proposing these kind of things, and by the way, this is not done yet, but we've already contracted for it, so by 27th of October this year, and I'm making a bold declaration, it will be done. So if I'm alive, after that date, I'll be more than happy to take you around on a tour for this particular facility. So when we were proposing this to the senior leader, and saying, are you promoting pornography? I'm like, what do you mean by that? Or if you take the walls down, I feel naked. And there are going to be so many naked people in the office. And I'm like, no, but that's what it is. I mean, we are talking about removing the entitlement for the space. The spaces are still going to be there. You're still going to have closed door offices. You're still going to have walls in over there. But you are not going to be entitled for any of those spaces. This is one of the very critical things. When we are talking about removing walls or taking walls away from the people, oh, I've got so much of confidential stuff to do. And we were very lucky that we had our HR director of the company leading this initiative of the culture change. And she came back and said, let's start questioning what is that confidential work is all about. And 80% of the time, what we hear from the people is, oh, I've got performance reviews to do for my team. Yeah, that's not company confidential thing. Oh, but you know, I'm talking about the prices or the contracts, and I'm talking to the customers, and all these numbers are floating around, kind of a thing. And when we started to find out that senior leader just signed on the deal, which actually is negotiated by the person sitting outside on the desk. And that person on the desk has the contract price or the negotiations prices for 4 different companies, while this senior leader is actually signing on the purchase order to the one company only. So let's start questioning that. And when we started questioning that, we understood not much of the work is confidential in nature. And to our surprise, to our luck, the chief executive officer, I mean, who himself is a converted person, I mean, he's the one who's saying, I'm getting out of the office. And if anybody in the company thinks they need an office, I'm more than willing to have a conversation with them at my open desk if I find one. So that was a pretty powerful statement to support us on that. Then this was another one which everybody knew that they were having a bit of a luxury when they are being catered by the butlers. And I am using that word because you see them in the white shirts and you know, the tux and with a bow tie, and offering the stuff with the, you know, that towel wrapped in the hand and pouring the stuff for you. We literally had that, and we went into the discussion of let's not go too far into self-service. I mean, a lot of the time, I mean, everybody's enamored about let's get everybody to do everything by themselves. In a sense, let's get them to log into the self-ordering systems and all that kind of stuff. And somebody gets into the discussion of, well, my time is too precious. Shall I be wasting my time on these kind of things, administrative stuff, which we can hire a person for and do it for myself? Absolutely makes sense. But what we are here to tell people is you're not more important than the colleague who's working for you. His contribution or her contribution is equally important in the overall ecosystem of the office work that you're doing over there. Then this is another interesting thing, and this gets more hidden, and it gets more hidden under the name of corporate governance. But what we found out is if you have processes which are requiring more approvals, and if all the approvals tend to come to one single senior person, it's probably a sign of hierarchy in action and over there. Because frankly, if your CFO is signing every order more than $50,000, it's depicting lack of trust. It's depicting lack of enablement to the people. I mean, people not even knowing what to do or what kind of a decision to take in the interest of the company. So once you start questioning those approvals, you start saying, well, for a particular order to go out or of particular instructions to be sent out in the market, you actually don't need 35 signatures. You actually just need 2 people auditing it and 1 person signing it. And when the 35-step signature process becomes 3-step signature, you suddenly start seeing the need for having closed-door offices vanishing. Because now the 32 other people don't need to get involved in those kind of confidential discussion, confidential in commas, over there. So once you start questioning those kind of processes, it translates into different kind of a space design itself. It's starting to get into that buzzwords of collaboration, a bit more open culture, because there's no more I control what goes out of this particular organization kind of a mindset. This was another important factor, which is the most difficult one, which we found out, was when there is hierarchy in place, what it clouds is the visibility across the layer. There could be some star performer who are working in your team, but if it is a hierarchical system, your boss is the only person who gets seen outside, because it all happens in the closed door. So once you take the walls away, once you take the processes away, once you strip down all the unnecessary waste, what you do is you raise the visibility of the junior-most person, if I can use that particular term, in the organization, and the CEO can watch, I mean, whether this guy is actually putting in heart out, and is he getting rewarded or not getting rewarded or getting acknowledged, and it all starts to become a little bit more transparent in that particular sense. So we did these 4 or 5 things. Now, we're not kidding ourselves. Are we saying after doing these 4 or 5 things, we just took some walls away, just redesigned some of the processes and questioned some of the, the ordering versus self-service kind of a thing? Has the hierarchy going to vanish? No. I mean, these hierarchy, for it to vanish, I mean, it's sitting in the head of the person who is sitting high up on that chair and who's making you sit on that sofa. So for it to go away from the head, that's not going to happen with these kind of steps. But why did we do it then? We took the approach from the dietitians. I mean, the modern day dietitians, they're coming back with the fact, if you want to eat less, take the picture of the food away from your table. It's just that symbol which is reminding you that you have to eat food, while your body is not needing anymore. These are just the symbols. If they are there, they are reinforcing that message that there is a hierarchy in place, that there is one person who is more important than the others, or there is one person who disseminates the whole information within the company. I mean, we always relate this particular scenario. Today, if you want to know one piece of information, what do? You want to find out about something, some new stuff. What do? You go to Google. Exactly, right? And even in Google, how do you do it? I mean, there are multiple sites where one network going to the other network, so you do one particular search, that search leads you to something else, and within a couple of minutes, you actually get to your answer, or thereabout in your answers. What did you do when the Google was not around? Who was that somebody? If you were looking into some sort of a research kind of a paper, you used to go to the librarian. Do you recognize that term? You used to go to the city library, and that librarian was the guy who knew everything about every book that was in the library. The problem is that concept doesn't exist anymore. There isn't a librarian who knows everything about every book written in the world. Such is the nature of our business, and that is basically what is driving us to question why we're doing it. I mean, why can't we have just one innocent guy have his plush sofa and his oak veneer table and his plush carpet and his linen towels and butler service? I mean, there's just 10 of them, right? It's just taking that service away from 10 of those people is not going to save company a lot of money. So why are we doing it? For exactly that reason. Nature of work has changed. It's not that one librarian knowing everything about everything in your organization anymore. It is becoming more collaborative. The expertise is now more disseminated. It's not concentrated with one person or one group or one entity in the organization anymore. Also, Peter from Microsoft, he was talking about the speed of work. My boss also was mentioning about that if you go with the hierarchical system, the amount of time it takes to get anything done is almost unaffordable by your business today. You cannot afford to wait for the librarian to go back to 20th row and 17th book and come out with a 25th page information kind of a thing. Your business cannot afford that kind of a time anymore. So it's the time of the thing, and no one person knows it at all. The biggest thing is accountability. Ever noticed in a hierarchical structure, only the boss is accountable. If there is something wrong, I mean, yes, the boss does not like to keep the accountability with them. They always say, this guy didn't do the job. But the guy always say, I was following the order. It was written in the process, that's what it said, the 35-step process, that's what I followed. It's not my fault. When you take the hierarchy away, accountability starts to go with the person actually contributing the job. And that's one of the key factors, because as more and more C-suite people are transferring the responsibility of the revenue, of the growth of the company, and all that kind of stuff over to the employees, it is not possible to drive that accountability with the hierarchy structure available in that place. So for the headquarter project, coming back to the culture change kind of a requirement from our business, this was one of the most important factors, removing hierarchy. Again, we are trying to remove the symbols of hierarchy and hoping with the repeated use, people coming in over there and again, and they will try to get that message that the contributors, all the contributors are at the same level, that there's no one person better than the other in terms of their contribution to the business. But the question for us is, are we going to make a concerted effort to remove hierarchy from every little office that we have in the world? Probably not. Our hope is, once we do it in the headquarters, the senior-most person who's saying there's no hierarchy with me and I'm sitting out in the open on the same desk and furniture that one of my junior person is sitting, then we're hoping that other people in the organization will have to follow the suit. It's not that we will force them, but they do not probably have much of a chance in terms of their argument and say, well, I need an office while the CEO of my company does not need an office, kind of a thing. So what was the lesson learned from our perspective on this whole exercise? By the way, it's still not done, but I think there is a very strong lesson for us. Most of it is not new. Most of it is something that we already know. In fact, listening to the presentations all morning and in the afternoon, it looks like I'm preaching to the choir, but we do start with a general step in terms of our process of look at what the business output is. What is the business intending to do? In the headquarter facility, it was about the culture change because they are looking at providing leadership support to the rest of the organization. In another project, it was about designing the most efficient engine in the world. That's the business output. Once you get that defined, that's when you start asking, what do you need to do to support that business output? And some of the mistakes which we generally make is if we go and ask people, what do you need to be productive without asking the first question, they'll always say, give me more meeting room, give me more office space, give me more desks. But when you say, if you are here to design the most efficient engine in the world, how will you do that? That's when they come back and say, well, for me to design the most efficient engine in the world, I probably need to sit next to the auditing team because they audit me too late and by then I've already baked in my design kind of a thing and I have to do the runs and the reruns kind of a thing. So then they start defining their work processes by themselves. And then you say, if you were to collaborate with this particular team and that particular team, you need a technology support to enable you to do that. You need spaces for you to be able to do that. So you derive the answer for IT and workspaces based on what output are you trying to support in the end. And then you demonstrate, especially if it is a change item. We're currently going through that particular process for our headquarters where we're saying, let's remove all the walls, let's make everybody equal, let's make it all more collaborative. And somebody, smart person from the legal organization is saying, by the way, you're still going to tell me, right, how am I going to conduct my work? Because I still got a lot of board papers to deal with, a lot of legally confidential documents to deal with, and how am I going to do that work? So we are demonstrating to them that taking the walls away, taking some of these processes away, does not mean that you cannot do your work anymore. So you still demonstrate in terms of them being able to deliver the work the way they can. And then obviously, in the end, you're delivering the work, so you're getting the project done. But one very key learning that we got out of this one, the headquarter project, was you have to deconstruct the old legacy system. This is sometimes we either assume or take it for granted or ignore that you can deliver the new items, you can deliver the new technology, you can always put new system in place, but if you're not consciously taking the old practices away, you're always going to be in for some sort of a trouble over there. I mean, somebody was saying in the older days when we used to type with a typewriter, one of the measures was the number of errors in a page. You know that white line that you need to put on those typewritten papers? So when we made a switch to computer, if you're still measuring people by the number of errors per page, I think you're missing the point. That's not what computer was all about. I mean, if you're still making an error with the computer, it's missing the point over there. So that's what we thought is an important step in our change journey, that we have to demolish the legacy hurdles in that particular change. So that's what we had. Thank you very much. You can take a bit of a breath. Yeah. Time for questions or?
Yes, of course. 5 minutes.
No questions. Andreas.
This is Andreas from Partake again. Thank you very much, Sanjeev, for showing us how hierarchies are actually a brick and mortar around us. And yes, do take down those walls. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So it's Alan again. Hi. I'm just wondering.
Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, Alan.
Is it on?
Sorry.
Hi. I was just wondering, Rolls Royce is sort of known as a brand for bringing quality, exclusivity, high quality goods, and I'm just wondering that transformation you're talking about, going from the lovely plush carpet butler, which is something as a customer, if I was to come and see the CEO of Rolls Royce, that's what I'd love to see. And how that conflicts maybe with the brand. I don't know whether you had that dilemma at all.
Oh, we definitely had that dilemma, and that's why I'm saying my name is going to be written on that war memorial, because I'm turning on a very, very thin line over here. This is where our CEO's concept came into the picture, and he was like, yes, people are, our tagline, our marketing line is trusted to deliver excellence. So people are expecting, the customers are expecting the excellent products out of us. But they're not expecting us to live in luxurious lives, because gone are the days when we can say, oh, well, if you want to buy a Rolls Royce engine, you got to pay premium. It's a competitive world. We got to compete on prices as well. So in terms of image, we got to live with the common grounds and still deliver the excellent product that we are expected to deliver. Yes, sir.
West. So it's a very inspiring story. You drove this from, let's say, property perspective. But you started from your property person?
No.
Are other groups involved? Or?
Yeah, that's why I shared the first slide. Yes, I had a personal passion in it, but it's joint effort. So this whole team is being led by the HR director of the company, and there is an IT person, I'm the group property person, there are finance people, so it's a joint effort, and it's led by HR.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Great. Thanks.
Yeah. Any more? Well, thank you very much. Enjoy.